Hello and welcome to another episode of The Way I Work. This is brought to you by Rigby. We're a staffing company here in Zurich in Switzerland. So we're generally interested in the way that different people approach and think about work. So how they structure their day, what tools they use, and how they manage their resources to get things done. Today we'll be speaking with Stephen Clapham. Stephen is a former hedge fund analyst and is the founder of Behind the Balance Sheet, which is a leading investment training consultancy. Since launching its first forensic accounting course in June 2018, the firm has trained over 500 investment professionals from top-tier institutions. In addition to training, Steve also produces research for institutional clients. His insights are regularly featured in prominent publications such as the Investors Chronicle, the Times, and the Financial Times. He's also made appearances on the Times Radio and on top investment podcasts like Bloomberg's Odd Lots and the Grant Williams podcast. Stephen began his career as an equity analyst, spending 2 decades at several investment banks. And during this time, he was regularly ranked in the top 10 in his sector by both Excel and Reuters. In 2005, he transitioned to the buy side, becoming a partner and head of research at multi-billion-dollar hedge funds, where he specialized in deep dive research and special situation opportunities. Trained as an accountant, Steve now lives in London. His book, The Smart Money Method, became a #1 bestseller in the investing category on Amazon in the US, the UK, and Australia. He also writes a free weekly newsletter, and we'll be linking to that and all the other topics that we mentioned in the show notes. Okay, so Stephen, thank you for joining us.
No, thanks. I really.
That's right. So we're subscribers and big fans of your work, and it's a real honor to speak with you today.
Well, I hope you're a paying subscriber.
Yes. And can we start at the beginning? What first sparked your interest in equity research and investing?
Oh, it was complete accident. I mean, I had accepted a job reporting to someone that reported to the CFO of the fifth largest company in the UK. And I was pretty young. It was a really high flying sort of role. And I accepted the job. They accepted me. Everything was fine. And then they called me up. And the guy that I was meant to be reporting to said, "Really sorry, personnel pointed out, we made a bit of a mistake because you're too young for this grade. And so don't worry, you'll be doing exactly the same thing, but you'll be 1 grade lower. And so you'll have a bit less money, a bit fewer benefits. And next year we'll promote you." I said, "I'm not interested. I don't want to come work for a company that my progress will be determined by my age. That's great. I'm going to do the job where I can." "Oh, you can do the job. You can do the job." Thanks. I really like you and I really like the CFO, and I'm sure it would have been an interesting role, but I've just got no interest in having a constraint like that. I don't want my performance to be impaired by my age. So thanks very much. Good luck. And no thanks. And I was telling somebody about this, and they said, "Why don't you go into the city?" And I said, "I don't know anybody in the city. I've got the wrong background. I wouldn't be able to get in." And that you probably won't, but I think you would quite enjoy equity research. I don't know very much about it, but my secretary, her boyfriend is a former analyst. He's now head of research. Why don't you go and have a chat with him, and he'll tell you the type of job it is and how you would get in, and he might even be able to introduce you to some people. And I said, "Do you think he would?" And she said, "I don't know." And he called up the secretary, and she said, "Oh yeah, of course. Well, see, tell Steve to be in the office at 8 o'clock on Tuesday." And I said, "Okay, fine. I'll be in the office at 8 o'clock on Tuesday." And went in 8 o'clock at the office on Tuesday, and the guy looks at my CV, and he said, "Well, come work for us."
Wow. Isn't it amazing to think how moments like that can have such an impact on your life and your career?
Well, I didn't believe him. He said, "Yeah, all you need to do, you need to come in and see a couple of other people, but it's fine. You'll be good." And I started. I knew nothing about investing. My father never owned a stock or a share or a bond or any investment in his whole life. And it was a complete mystery to me. I didn't study finance at university. I never bought a share in my life. I mean, know anything about it. But I could see that it was an opportunity, and I could see it was a meritocracy, which at the time was very important to me, particularly having had this small setback. I started, and of course, I trained as an accountant, so I was already instantly ahead of most of the people there. But yeah, most of them didn't have a clue what they were doing. But I did that. If you looked at it today, they would have struggled, perhaps. But many of the analysts were much older than analysts today. They're very experienced. They understood their industries very well. They were less sophisticated about the stock market, about what makes stocks go up, about the accounting and so on. I could go straight in and add value to talking to a client, and you just say, this company seems quite aggressive in the way it's doing its accounting. And nobody was doing that at that point. And I worked, I did twice as many hours as the average analyst in, one of the old fashioned firms. The guy I sat next to used to complain. He said, oh, it's terrible. Our meetings at 8:30 these days. It used to be at 9:30. During the old days, I used to come in at 9:30 and knock off lunch at 12:30 and go and have a long lunch and then
long lunch.
At 4.
Yeah.
Used to working, but I'd been a management consultant. I was just working 80, 100 hours a week. I used to be at the office at 8:00, and the office was an hour's drive away. It was very simple for me to outwork them. And the investing part of it wasn't that difficult. Understanding the industries wasn't that difficult because I've been a management consultant. So I was accustomed to going into a new company and a new industry and trying to understand how it worked. So that part of it was straightforward. It was more the stock market side of it. It took me some time. I can remember reading the Lex column and being completely flummoxed. What is it? What are they trying to say? Literally, I would read it. I couldn't understand it. But after reading it every day for a month, 3 months, gradually some of the terms start to sink in. I didn't see it at the time. And looking back on it, it was very easy for me to excel and get to the position where I was regarded as one of the best analysts.
Yeah. You did make quite a few. So from being a management consultant to being an equity analyst, being on the buy side to the sell side, and today being an entrepreneur and educator, it's quite a lot of adaptation, quite a lot of changing. Does that come naturally to you?
You adapt to your circumstances, don't you? Left to your own devices, you wouldn't seek out radical change, would you? Most people were comfortable with what they know. And I did want to move from management consulting because I was becoming ever more expert in a narrow field. And it was interesting work, but I thought it's less interesting than it was 12 months ago. And it'll be even less interesting in another 12 months. And the last thing I want is a career doing this for the next 30 years. I could see that very clearly. So I wanted to move. And that's why I'd applied for this other job. And I could see that working in the stock market was interesting. You were mixing with very senior people at companies. I knew that I was interviewed by that CFO, but I knew that I would see him 2 or 3 times a year. I wasn't going to be talking to him every day. Whereas in this job, that CFO was interested in what I had to say and would take my calls. And there are very few jobs where you can do that age 25 or whatever, that you can speak to the chairman, the chief executive, the finance director, and they have to listen to you.
Yep.
And in some cases, they actually wanted to listen to you. So that was very unique. And moving from the sell side to the buy side, I toyed with doing that earlier. And I almost went to work for Stuart Newton, but he couldn't decide what I was most suited to be. And he had a process where you went to a psychologist and the psychologist studied you and decided whether you'd be more suited to being an analyst or a PM, portfolio manager. And I didn't like the idea of being a portfolio manager. I thought it'd be quite fun to be a buy-side analyst, but I wasn't sure about being a PM, more through ignorance than anything else. And feeling confident I was a good analyst, but I had no idea if I would be even competent as a PM. And I didn't pursue that opportunity because I just didn't want to end up in the wrong role. And 6 months later, I'd made a mistake. And I was scared of change, I think, at that point, which is slightly understandable. You're doing well where you are and you're highly regarded and you're making good money and you can see the future. Throwing that up in there and doing something completely different than fancy. But moving to the buy side, that was a real opportunity because I was still using my analytical skills, but I was just using them in a broader context, a broader framework. And actually, when I moved to the buy side, I thought, well, why didn't I do this earlier? Because looking at it from the other end of the table, I hadn't realized how much easier the job was in respect of understanding the company. Because, you've got somebody else doing a lot of the legwork for you.
Yeah.
Making the decisions and making sure that you buy the right things and sell the right things. That was more mission critical than it is in the sell side. And it was more fraught and stressful. But the actual analytical job
With high stakes.
made it easier because you did a lot
Yeah.
more. You weren't sitting on your own with nobody helping you the whole sell side to tap into. And obviously I was doing a much broader canvas. So when I was in sell side, I was very unusual in my firm because I did not just UK stocks and European stocks. Most people did UK and European, but I also did some American companies. But now I was let loose in Asia and China, and I could look at wherever I was interested. And that opened up a whole new realm of possibilities, a whole new canvas, thinking about the global economy and what was doing well, where was the growth, where were there opportunities. So it was a much more interesting job, but I was a bit late to the party.
And did you visit those places? Did you go to Asia?
Oh yeah, I would.
Because you're only in your 20s.
A gold card holder, very quickly. How are you?
What an adventure. It must have been great fun.
I mean, you used to go to Asia a couple of times a year. If I had some specific reason, I might go an extra time. I used to go to America once a quarter, thereabouts. I used to go to Europe once a month or thereabouts. I was on a plane every 3 weeks. Never kept track of how many flights I took, but I took a lot of flights. And when things went wrong, we had a practice where something went wrong. The best thing to do is go and see the management. You bought the stock, it's gone down 20%. Various reasons it could be. Don't hang around. You've got a lot of money riding on this. Go and talk to them in person because you have a much better conversation and their body language will give you comfort or make you feel uncomfortable. And that can be an important element in your decision. Because you bought a stock, it's gone down 20%. You've got to decide, do I buy more or do I get? And the status quo is not really a good option. And being forced to make a decision means you've got to do more work. And having that confidence of running through your thesis again with the company can make you feel more confident that you haven't missed anything.
Of course. Do you apply a discount when you're visiting management for the fact that they're probably very slick operators and good salesmen?
Very few of them aren't. It's not that you believe 100% everything they tell you. Obviously, you've got to take it with a pinch of salt. But they know their company and their industry better than you do and better than any independent commentator does. And sometimes they're just little things that make you it's not necessarily something you can put a finger on. You just feel uncomfortable. I think if I were to revisit that process again today, I would do it slightly differently. Because I think I understand more about the physical body language tells. I'm better at asking the questions in the right way. I don't believe that I've got any particular skill in judging if somebody's lying to me, and I wouldn't classify that interpersonal analysis as being one of my strong points. But I just think you get better intuition than you do over a Zoom call. We're having this conversation over Zoom, which is perfectly nice, and we can have a conversation, but it's not quite the same as if we were sitting in Zurich and the chairs behind you. It would be a different circle.
It's interesting that Stuart Newton were using psychological profiling then when they were assessing candidates.
I've never forgotten the details of it, but basically, Stuart's view was that you were either a PM or an analyst in your makeup. And I forget, he explained to me at the time why he thought this way. And what he did was he had a particular person, I don't know whether they were actually a qualified psychologist or whether they just were somebody that he used, but they asked you questions to try and figure out what your aptitudes were. And his theory was that you could identify by asking somebody, talking to them, would you be better as an analyst or as a PM? And I didn't know how they did that. And looking back on it, I was quite stupid because obviously any test like that, I would come out better as an analyst because that's where my skill I think is. But with PMs, you've got a slightly different emphasis. You've still got to analyze the companies and the investment opportunity, but it's more about harnessing your psychology and your emotions and being in control of your emotions. So you could be a brilliant analyst, but be very emotional and get very upset when things go against you. If you're a PM, you've got to be able to ride those out because things go against you every day. As an analyst, things tend to go against you in waves. So you get some big macro thing wrong and everything goes wrong. And then you're miserable for a while, but then things turn around. And so you can be less calm as an analyst and still do well. As a portfolio manager, if you're very at the mercy of your emotions, you won't be good at your job. You've got to be quite rational and quite logical and quite accepting of getting things wrong, because you get things wrong a lot. You get things more wrong as a PM than as an analyst, probably. I don't know if there's any statistical studies on this. But if you're an analyst, you're doing deeper work, so you should have a higher hit rate. As a portfolio manager, you're doing less detailed work, so you should, in theory, have a lower hit rate. And so I think it was more of those psychological things that they were looking for. But it's a long time ago. I haven't worried too much about it. And I've done both jobs.
Yeah. No, I know lots of organizations over here will often put people through kind of Myers-Briggs tests and things like that. But yeah. Stephen, in this series, we're focused really on how people work. And I know that you put out quite a lot of content on a schedule. So I wanted to ask you, do you have a typical work day? And if so, could you walk us through what that looks like?
I've never really had a typical work day. I was an analyst, a hedge fund. You don't know when you come in the morning what's happened overnight. President Trump could have introduced tariffs and the world has completely changed. Or you come in and nothing's happened and you can get on with your schedule. That's pretty unusual. Usually you come in and there's been something's happened somewhere. And one of your stocks is badly down and you could have found out why. And my job now obviously doesn't involve that day-to-day interaction with the stock market to the same extent. And so I'm better able to plan my schedule. But my schedule is very varied. I do more travel now because my main business is training and my clients have become more international over time as my forensic accounting course has got better known. I've delivered that course in person and over Zoom to, I don't know how many countries, 25, 35, something like that, with quite a large area. I've come to Zurich several times to give that course. But I look at a day like today, we're Thursday. I publish my Substack, my weekly newsletter, which you can find and sign up for on behindthebalancesheet.com, sign up on the book, right? And it's free and it's quite good. I have to produce that every week. So I generally try and write that weekly. Sometimes before the summer, I might rack up a few, or
Have a queue ready.
then I might do a series and do them all together. But so we're on Thursday today, as we're recording, I haven't completed my Substack. So my top priority is to make sure I've got something ready to go out on Sunday. So I've got the printed version here and I'm just finishing up the edit. I've written, I can't remember whether I wrote it on Monday or Tuesday or a bit of both this week. And this morning I got in, I started my Substack. I then had a call with a conference organizer who were interested in having me help them with a conference they're doing later in the year and with some media they want to advertise in my newsletter. I've just come back from a meeting with an old former colleague of mine who has semi-retired and he's launched an independent research boutique and he wants me to help. They want to publish on a couple of stocks that have got difficult accounting. He wants me to help them do some of the accounting analysis and publish it, which I'm probably not going to do, but I said I'd help them do it. Then I got back to the office at 3:00. I had a call with Alpha Sense, who sponsor my podcast. We're great people, and we're just talking about the next webinar I'm going to do for them. And we're just strategizing on, what would be interesting for people. And I've got this call with you, and then at 6:30 I'm having dinner with a guy who coincidentally, we were meant to have dinner that 2 months ago, coincidentally was on the same plane as me. We Omaha. We're getting off the British Airways flight, and okay,
Yeah.
really richer, wiser, happier. It's the same guy. And to be honest, I don't know why he wants to have dinner with me, but I think he wants to do some sort of collaboration. So it's been quite a bit of time talking to people about potential collaborations and partnerships. I spend quite a bit of time writing my Substack. I spend a bit this morning preparing for my next podcast interview, which I'm doing a week on Monday with an American fund manager who's happens to be in London. And so we're going to get together. So I just was reading some of his past letters, thinking about what the conversation is going to look like. And I spend quite a bit of time trying to promote my training products. My main business, I train professional investors. I have a forensic accounting course, which has been incredibly popular.
Yeah.
I did that course for a client on Monday, and so I've just been following up with them today. And I have an online school. So if you want to become a serious investor, I have a course called the Analyst Academy, which has been terribly popular. And these things need constant promotion because people don't just wake up in the morning and say, oh, you know what? I'd like to learn how to invest in the stock market. And I'm going to go and ask that Steve Clapham guy because they don't know that this course exists. You've got to be there waving the flag, telling people about these things. So that sort of thing takes quite a bit of my time.
It's a huge variety of different things that you're working on. Do you find it difficult to stay focused? And if so, do you have some kind of ritual that helps you to stay focused with so many different things going on?
Or to focus on one thing at a time.
Just do one thing at a time. Don't even attempt to multitask.
I'm not capable of it. My children, I sometimes point out to them that it would be better if, when they were learning their Latin vocabulary, if they weren't on TikTok. I just think my children, my elder son has worked this out. My younger son thinks that it's better to listen to music while you're studying. Or you could listen to music and watch TikTok and do his French homework. All brilliant, genius. We'll see GCSE. He's had his physics GCSE today. So we'll see when the GCSE results come, how effective the multitasking has been.
Was it French music at least that he was listening to
No,
while he was doing his French homework?
and there's no such thing.
And do you have any kind of tools or apps or services that you rely on? Maybe some underrated service that you use in your daily work?
I've tried various things. I tried having the to-do list on the phone. I tried various tools like that. I tried using Notion to build up a database of ideas for the Substack and social media. I've tried various databases and everything else. My to-do list is now on I don't know where
Pen
it
and paper.
is. It's on a piece of paper. I just write.
Yeah.
I
Notion's great.
might just be a product of my age. I find it easier to do that. I'm writing out my Substack, which is about a conference I've been to, and it's all written here. I'm sitting in a presentation yesterday and somebody was on their iPad typing. I just find it easier.
Yeah.
Right. And I find that I remember if I've written, and that suits me. It is almost certainly not the most efficient thing. Having loads of these sorts of notebooks, I've got a pile of them here, and I keep bring my Dymo labeler into the office and label the dates, so I at least go back and find things more effectively. I'm just a product of my age. I do things in a way that I find effective. And so I don't really see that an app is necessarily a cure. I do use a few different tools, but I also find some of the apps, you're all seeing away very merrily, thinking this is the best thing since sliced bread, and then they go bust, and you're completely screwed.
Right.
Oh, I was using one of the business card readers. I thought, oh, this is brilliant. And I then discovered that it was occupying huge amount of space in my phone. And I was thinking, if I carry on using this, it's going to be up there. And the one thing that I found it didn't help me with was it didn't help me with the connections as to where I'd met people. You might think that this is not a very useful way of filing your business cards, but I group them by, so where did you pick up business cards? You picked up business cards at conferences.
Yes.
So I group them by where I met them. And
Makes sense.
I go to the bar, oh yeah, what, who was that guy? And I go to the next guy, oh yeah, I remember that. I met them in New York 3 years ago. And I just find that works. I'm not averse to using new technologies, but I find generally that when I adopt a new technology, 50% of the time, I would say I revert to my original.
Yeah.
And my original is usually what is on the face of it less efficient, less effective, but
It works for you.
I find it.
Yeah.
And why worry about that?
And you have your office there in London, in Paddington, where I was born. Do you try to limit your work time to that space, or are you happy working anywhere in an airport lounge or a coffee shop or kitchen table?
Happy. Coming back from Omaha, the flight connections were not brilliant. I think the British Airways flights were quite expensive, and so I opted for the cheaper option. So I ended up in the lounge in Chicago for quite a few hours, and I just get my laptop out, and I just got a Substack to write, and I just write it. I'm here 9 till 6 usually, and last night I was reading about this Tesla CFO's $139 million payback. I thought, oh, I should really include that in my forensic accounting course. And there was a particular angle about this, and I need a slide on this for my course. So last night I just went upstairs and produced that slide in my study at home.
Yeah, so whenever whenever the spirit takes you.
Equally, I'm not averse to if something that I want to do. If I wanted to go off this afternoon and do something, wouldn't bother me that I wasn't working.
Sure. Okay. And you've said that investors often don't read the notes in the financial statements. Are there other bad habits like that you see repeatedly?
It's my assertion that most investors are incompetent when it comes to analyzing company financials, or not nearly as competent as they should be. So they don't very much more than read the P&L and have that quick scan of the cash flow. They don't spend nearly enough time in the balance sheet. Quite funny that Mr. Buffett highlighted this year. It's far more important than income statement. You would look at 8 or 9 balance sheets before you even bother to look at the income statement. And this is symptomatic of I was going to say of a low attention economy. I think it's partly a symptom of people just don't have the time, patience, and energy to really spend time on things. But that would be slightly unjust, because I think there are lots of investors that do spend a lot of time studying companies. But, that arcane stuff in the accounts is just too boring for most of them. And it's very rare that people really get in the weeds on the accounts. I'm not saying this is true of everyone. There are people that do a lot of really detailed and really impressive work on company accounts, but it's not nearly as widespread as it should. You would imagine that 100% of professional investors, before they bought a share, would have read the accounts cover to cover. And absolutely 100% guarantee you that it's nowhere near 100%. Just nowhere. And that's quite understandable, because the accounts are longer than they ever used to be. There's more information than there ever used to be. You come in the morning and you've got a deluge of stuff being thrown at you. Most of it crap, but you've got to wade through it, work out where there's messy, where there's signal, and you've got to go through a lot of noise to find a little bit of signal. I don't blame people for not spending that time, because they don't have a huge amount of time to spend. And in a way, it's good for me, because I've got a bunch of clients that rely on me to help them sort the accounting stuff. So I do consulting for a number of institutions where they outsource the very detailed accounting research to me.
Hi everyone, Daniel here. I hope you're enjoying the episode. I just wanted to take a moment to say once again, if you are looking for a role here in Switzerland, or if someone you know is, Or if you're looking to hire, let us know. We'd be happy to help. The best way to do that is by going to rigby.ch/apply and filling out the form. And then as soon as we have something that might be suitable for you, we'll gladly let you know. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye. Now more than ever, with the rise of LLMs, there's lots of people speculating about the future of work. Do you have an opinion on that yet? How the world of work might look in 2 or 3 or 5 years from now?
Not sure I'm the right person to ask. Daniel Susskind has written 2 very good books about the impact of AI and the future of work, and they're more general than specific. I could only really comment on the analytical role or investing more broadly, and then a few minor use cases. But I think relative to my expectation, when ChatGPT first came in our horizon 2.5 years ago, and it's 30 months.
Yeah.
For all the talk about how fast things are improving, I'm pretty disappointed at where we are 30 months on. I was expected to be able to come in and say to my computer, do this, do that, and it would all be done for me. So I was looking at this Tesla finance director's pay, and I was asking various models to go through the Form 4 filing because I wanted to know how many shares he'd sold in the last X number of years. I would have assumed that within 3 months that you just ask that question and it would instantly come back to you. That was no simple, straightforward thing to do. It didn't happen in 30 seconds. It took me maybe 5 minutes to do it this morning.
Mm-hmm.
It would have taken me a lot longer without, of course, that go through 100 Form 4s, which obviously what I used to have to do. But I was disappointed. There's nothing difficult about that. I said, come back to me with the alternative arrangements to get to Omaha next year and with costings, and tell me the difference between business class, first class, and the layover times, and I want all these options. Oh, and give me all the hotel options. And I'm not sure whether I want to go out on the Wednesday or the Thursday or back in the Sunday or back in the Monday. That's a slightly more complicated thing, but even that isn't that complicated. And I doubt that you could do that today. Maybe there is an agent that I have not found that to be possible to do. I'm not a real expert, and I'm trying to improve my skills. And I've been able to use it for some quite useful things, but it's been a pretty laborious, pretty tedious process. So one of the things I did was I've got about 4,000 people on my Substack who subscribe using their company domain. 80% people subscribe using a Gmail or a Hotmail or an Outlook. And it's pretty easy for me to get the list of domain names. And so I use AI to go through and see how many asset managers do I have? How many hedge funds do I have? How many investment banks? How many brokers? I would have thought 30 months on would just be upload the spreadsheet and it'll come back in 10 minutes and tell you the answer. And oh, by the way, we've looked up, here's their speciality, here's the principal's name and email, here's their head office. That was not a 5-minute job. That was a several hour job. No, I was able to do other things at the same time, but it wasn't as easy as it could have been and should have been. I'm now trying to build some agents to help myself. But it's not as easy as I had anticipated it would be. It's definitely easier than it was without the AI. No question about that. But it's not painless, and making sure you've got accurate information is quite tricky. And I've had numerous occasions with hallucinations. And of course, if you're doing something important, you can use multiple models. So you can use the different models.
Cross-check.
I've just been trialing a system where you ask, it's like one interface, but you can choose which models you want to use. And so you can say, ask 3 models the same question, and you get 3 different answers. You compare 3 different answers. So
Triangulate.
Yeah, but that was quite expensive to buy. And if you want to have 3 tabs open in It just seems a bit more work.
Yeah.
The name artificial intelligence does imply that it's just like you say to your intern, go and do this. And it goes and comes back with a beautiful, 100% accurate, beautifully polished, beautifully presented thing. We're quite some way from doing that. But I've been experimenting quite a bit with AI to try and understand it and how I can improve myself. But I basically use it mainly for processing large volumes of data that are tedious to do myself, or for helping me with things like, so I'm much better at Excel now because I'm tutoring.
Right.
I can do much more quickly in Excel, but I say, well, I want to do this.
And it'll give you a formula.
Here's where the cells are. So pick this from that and pick that from that and combine those two and then split that. And working out those formulae would have been quite difficult for me. I've been able to do it. I'm very good at forecasting company profits, but I'm not very good Excel user. I'm not a power user by any means. So now I've become a power user because I've got the help. So there's no question that's been very helpful, but we're not where I imagine we would be. And my podcast guest this month, Gary Chanham, said that within 2 years, sell-side analysts would be replaced by AI. And he's very sophisticated. He's much better at using AI than I am. So he probably knows more about it than I do. But I was amazed he said that because I wouldn't have thought we're anywhere near getting to that point in 2 years, given the 2.5-year journey we've been on. Because you imagine you do the easiest things first. And it's taken us 2.5 years to get to here.
That's interesting.
But there's no question that it will improve over time and it'll make everybody's lives much easier. But it will eliminate a lot of repetitive stuff. It will eliminate a lot of tedious stuff. But the only thing you can do to adapt to this is to make
sure we have to
better use it.
It's interesting that Gary Chanham would say that. So not empowered by or made more productive by, but replaced by.
That might not be
sure.
Word.
I understand.
It's also what. Yeah.
We'll take that out. No, it's interesting. You mentioned you have kids. So do I. I think as a parent, it would always have been difficult to advise them about career choices. But what about now with all the changes that are going on now? What do you tell your kids about a sensible career path to choose?
I don't think it's for me to push them down a particular path. My parents did that and I tended to. All I've said to them is, look, we don't know. None of us knows what lies in store. We can make some sensible assumptions. They're not really able to use AI very much to help them with their studying because it's really frowned upon at school.
Yes.
But they cannot use it to help them with their essays. They're even reluctant to put their finished essay into AI and say, clean this up, tidy up the grammar, because they're worried that
be detected.
They're then asked about it. They can't say, oh, we didn't. So as far as I know, I haven't interrogated them about it, but I don't know, they don't really use AI for that sort of thing. Yeah, they might use it a little bit to help them with the research or something like that. But when we're talking about careers, I just said to them, look, you don't want to make a decision too early and you don't want to make decisions that are going to take you down a particular path until you have to. My attitude is that they should pursue knowledge and try and find things that interest them and learn about them and study what interests them. And so my elder son is fascinated by politics and he's studying history and politics, or he's studying international relations. And what is the career at the end of that? I don't know. And I'm pretty sure he doesn't know. And I hope it's not journalism. We chatted about journalism and he said, it might be quite interesting to be a political journalist. So I took him, we went for lunch with Philip Stevens, who was the political editor of that He retired about 18 months ago. And Philip's, I've known for years, a friend and not a close friend. I said to him, would you mind just explaining how you got to where you got to? And he went through, and he burst, that's the sort of career that's fantastic if you get to the very top.
Like he has to.
It's not very well paid. It's really difficult to make your mark. And it's not the easiest vocation to pursue. If that's what interests you, by all means do it. But just understand what the constraints are and don't know what my children will end up doing because the world might look a very different place in 5 years' time when, those decisions are really being made in earnest. And they may have very different interests then. I'm sure that if I'd asked them 5 years ago, what would you like to do? And asked them now, those answers would be very different. I ended up in equity analysis by complete accident. And that was something that I really loved doing.
That you were suited to.
But I didn't have a plan. I don't think you need a plan. You just need to work. When you find something you like, you just need to. I think it's a difficult thing to work at. It's a difficult thing to advise a friend's child or somebody that comes to you for advice. I think advising your own children is probably you're on a hiding to nothing because they're not really going to pay that much, a little bit of attention. But the other thing,
There's that as well.
the best will in the world, the person that you're least likely to listen to is your mom or dad.
Yeah. It might be counterproductive.
Yeah, man.
Stephen, what's next for Behind the Balance Sheet? Is there anything there that you're excited about in the pipeline?
Enjoy doing what I'm doing. We'll probably do another cohort-based course. So my main course for institutional investors, forensic accounting course, but I need 4 or 5 people to make it worth my while to go into present the course in person. So if you're a smaller firm, family office or whatever, or serious private investors, it's not really possible for them to access that material. So what I've done is I've done a cohort-based course, and we advertise that in the Substack, and we'll start that again probably in September, and that's good fun. We do it on a Monday night from 5:30 till 6:30 or 7 for 8 weeks. We've a whole bunch of material, and we have a lot of good Q&A. We'll do that. Going to launch a new initiative, which is top secret at the moment. I'm just trying to get my partner on side and signing up to finance it. We're signing it all up, and these things.
It's exciting.
But hopefully that will become public in the next few weeks. Summer is always a quiet time for me because nobody wants a training course in the summer. I spend summer with the family, really, and write a few Substacks, but don't do the main training stuff. And got a couple of things. I'm trying to work out some new partnerships. I've got 2 books on the go. One I've written a chunk of, but the other one I've written a very detailed plan for. I haven't really decided which book to publish first. I've got a couple of projects like that. And this other new project's been taking up a little bit of my time, but really just trying to improve the profile of the firm. We're not nearly as well known as we could be or should be. 6 o'clock in the morning, I was introduced in front of the Omaha CHI Center, queuing up. I was introduced to one guy and then another guy. 2 of them are professional financial influencers with YouTube channels. They both got 1 million subscribers. And they're very nice and they're very good at what they do. One of them's got an investing course, and I'm talking to him, and I'm sure his investing course is fine and be perfectly good content. It couldn't possibly be a fraction of the content of my course. And of course, I've got 5,500 subscribers in my YouTube channel. So I've got another 994,500
to go.
Add up with them. And I think over the next 18 months, that's one of the things I'm going to focus on, is I think I've been singularly bad at doing the marketing. So it's all very well having brilliant content. I genuinely believe, and all our customers tell us that content's brilliant, but we've done a very bad job of marketing, and I should spend more time thinking about marketing and less time on the content. The content's all done now. That's going to be the way.
You're keeping busy then. And the cohort course is delivered online. Right, Stephen?
So resume.
Mm-hmm.
So a combination, we've got there's a webinar every Monday night, which we record, and then we've got a portal, so you get access to the portal, so you can watch the previous recordings. We've got some extra material and a community and so on with additional stuff. I think the last one we did, we had Pulak Prasad.
Yeah. What I learned about investing from Darwin.
And
Fantastic.
or what I learned about investing from Darwin. Brilliant.
Excellent book. Yeah.
So we did a private session with Pulak, and he explained
Wow.
best how he thinks about quality. And so it's more than just, of course, you become a member of this community. And
That's interesting.
community, we try and do events. I did another event a couple of months ago. I interviewed Hugh Henry.
Your compatriot.
Yeah, we're both from Glasgow, and has got his villas in St. Bart's, and
And I read he was going to sell one of those to buy Bitcoin.
funnily enough, last time I met him, we agreed that Bitcoin was a buy at 19,000. And I've had my perception of Bitcoin colored by Messrs. Munger and Buffett.
Poison squared.
I feel slightly uncomfortable with Bitcoin because I don't know what it's worth. And to me, it's purely a speculative instrument. And so I feel very uncomfortable with the idea of putting my savings into it, which in a way is quite stupid. But I just have that hurdle of don't buy things you don't understand. And I knew that I should break my own rule, but in the end, I decided that the rules were not meant to be broken, so I didn't buy it. I don't know if you did, but that was 18 months ago, and he nailed the entry price. He's very good at that.
Yeah, no, I think he did. And I think he's doubling down now. Stephen, if someone would like to sign up for the cohort or any of your other services, how can they do that?
You can find me on behindthebalancesheet.com. Up there on the top right of the homepage is the sign up button, which takes you to the Substack sign up page, and you sign up, it's free. And on there also, there's a courses page, a range of online courses. For the cohort-based course, you need to be in the Substack, I'm afraid. And we advertise in the Substack. We open the window, and you need to get through the window before it closes. But the limited number of people that we can handle. I think the social media, people have occasionally published it on LinkedIn or whatever, but this thing, just watch Substack. But it'll be released that middle of August, probably.
That's great. Thanks very much for joining us today, Steve. It's been really interesting.
No, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right, that was another episode of The Way I Work. Thank you for listening, and thanks again to Stephen for joining us. This is brought to you by Rigby. We're a staffing company in Switzerland and in Singapore. If you are looking to hire either in Switzerland or Singapore, or to be hired, let us know. The best way to do that is by going to rigby.ch/apply and filling out the form, and then we'll be in touch as soon as we have something that might match to you. Thank you.